Wilson Morales talking to Whitney White regarding her show Semblance is currently playing um, off Broadway and it will be playing streaming shortly afterwards. So let's talk about how did this project come about and the challenges from getting it done to getting it on stage during the pandemic.
Well, thank you for that question. Also, thank you for your time. It's wonderful to be talking with you. The pandemic was a very interesting thing for anyone involved in the live arts because on March 13th, now 2 years ago, a year and a half ago or whatever, we all had to just stop. We had no in between. We had no, maybe we can rehearse. We had to just stop for months as an industry, the theater industry and several other types of live entertainment-based industries like music and television and film. And we all had to find a new way to move forward. And it took a lot of trial and error and experimentation. And it was never easy mounting anything in the pandemic. I think this is my third piece I've mounted in the pandemic. And Semblance was so unique because I knew I wanted to work with a live performer. I knew I wanted to deliver content that could be made available to a live audience and special for a live audience, but also a version of it could be made available online. But again, I'd never done these kind of practices before. So it was very challenging, but very exciting to come up with a new way to deliver the story, to deliver the themes and topics that the team was interested in exploring during this time. It required COVID testing, it required social distancing, everything you can think of, we kind of had to use to keep us all safe, healthy, and on the job,
Mm-hmm. And then, you chose this story, which obviously takes the plight of several women, so I'm sure you had to cut it down at some point as far as what makes the final cut. So how did you decide what story to tell, what perspective of a Black woman you wanted to tell?
Well, that is the question, because really, if I could do it again, I'd do it with 50 women. Just in short, for those out there, Semblance takes a look at Black women with respect to labor. And you see the kind of snapshots of 7 different women in their workspaces, and they speak to you via direct address in the camera to question the assumptions you might have about who you think they are, question your assumptions about the Black women you meet that are laboring for you, but at the same time, question your assumptions about yourself. At large, the piece isn't just about the plight of these Black women, it's about the plight of us all as we're all working for these wages day after day after day for a system that, exploits labor, essentially. And by looking at the Black female experience, because that's my experience, that's my way into a larger dialogue. But it was hard to decide who we should give portraits of. I was very moved, I guess, by the pandemic and the women that would come in and out of my life who kept my community going: bus drivers, people delivering mail, the women giving me my COVID tests, the women working at the polls, poll workers, to Cardi B, who's on my, iPhones. And I'm like, to Kamala Harris. And I'm like, what are all the different ways that I myself intersect with women during this time of my life? Because I know you are also intersected with these people. And so I tried to narrow it down to the portraits of women I feel we have high contact with in this time: nannies, bus drivers, women that are keeping us going, as it were.
So none of these women are you, or just composite of other people you know?
No, none of these women are me. I think if anyone's me, at the end of the film, there's a little kind of Easter egg with Nakia, that final shot. I feel close to me because that's the artist, but I did put a kind of vignette in there for my cousin who passed away during the pandemic this past February. She's like in an office setting. And so it was more a send up to the women I meet, the women I see. And of course, the language in the piece, some of that's from my own inquiries and experience as well.
Mm-hmm. You have Nakia, obviously choosing your muse, to play this role. How did you come about in getting her to play this all of these characters?
Well, Nakia Mathis is just one of the most spectacular artists all around that we have. We're so lucky to have her on our stages in New York and across the country. She's also a designer in her own right and has worked with me. She worked with me on a production at Soho Rep called For All the Women Who Thought They'd Gone Mad by Zawe Ashin, which I love very much. And she worked as a designer. So she's a multi-hyphenate as well. And I knew I needed to work with a woman who understands how to be behind a project and in front of a project. And she's just such a light, she really brought the piece to life in ways I didn't expect at all. And she's just lovely when you're around her. She feels like a facilitator. She feels like someone who makes things feel possible. It's a positive energy. And she's on her own journey as a Black woman, and she's not afraid to talk to me about it. And it really felt like a collaboration. I loved working with her.
What did you learn in the process of doing this? As you're telling the stories, I'm sure you had a team around you that said, oh, don't tell it this way, tell it that way. You so got me, and so forth. What did you learn about the Black woman as you did this, because no one knows every answer,
Okay.
And then as the director, as you continue to do projects, what do you take it from this project that you learn to your next project that you'll do different, if not the same?
Those are great questions. I mean, the first thing I learned is that no one can hold an identity hostage. I have one Black female experience. My sister in another city might have another one. And so I think that I guess what I learned in the process is I hope to always be making work that allows many people to see themselves inside the piece while also being honest to what I'm observing and experiencing in the world. But it was a great reminder that all of us are intersecting with Black femininity in very different ways. And the other thing I learned during the piece is just theater artists are incredible. We had to do Semblance in 2 parts. We had to build like mini sound stages and sets and shoot it. And then we had to come in and build the kind of installation that you watch the double screens in. And so we had to work with a blend of theatrical and film artists. I had a DP, a director of photography. I had 2 amazing female artists working the cameras. And I also worked with Una Curley, who I have to send it up to. She did lights and production design for both sides. And I worked with Stefania, videographer. I worked with Betty Jo and Final Cut to find the edits. So it was my first time having this hybrid team. It was a very big team. Our sound editors were in London. So we had to kind of be like, okay, what does this project need to get it done? And then source together this hybrid piece. And that was truly fascinating. I wish we documented that more, because seeing how everybody found a way to make the project possible was like, I'll never forget it. And it just makes me send it up to how ingenious and creative theater artists are. We don't have all the same resources that you have in film and TV, but we solve problems, and it's amazing to see. And yeah, go ahead.
I was about to say just the fact that a team wanted to work, and put this together and use their skill set. Like, oh, I need this, I need a DP, I need this.
Mhm.
When you look at it, the final product, and it's like, oh, it's one woman, but look at all the stuff around her. You know what I'm saying? So all she had to do was just get on stage, but the work was done behind the scenes.
Yes.
It's not easy for people to go outside, let alone come to theater. So
Yeah.
like, while this will be streaming, what is the sell for people to come out, especially Black audiences initially,
Yes.
to come out and see this, even though it's going to go streaming, but if they can have a day or 2 left to go see it, what's the sell?
Well, I think there's no doubt about it. The in-person experience is very different than what you'll get online. There's a double screen experience that is very dope, that drops you into Nakia's experience a lot deeper. And what the streaming experience will be is you'll get the single film that we cut. So there's this kind of subliminal messaging. There's just extra stuff. It's just, I think it's just very powerful in person. And also, there's nothing like being in real time and space with other people watching the same thing, getting on the same page, sharing a laugh, sharing a breath. I mean, I just think it's a very great way to ease your way back into the live event. We're taking great care of the space. The seats are socially distant. We really care about our audience's health. New York Theater Workshop has been spectacular at that. and the health of the artists working behind the scenes. And I think it's just a great way to start finding a way to get back into your life and to entertainment again.
Now, although it's going to start playing streaming, is there a possibility that while it's going to end its run in person in New York, you can take it anywhere because you can go to LA, you can go to Boston and so forth, and still do it live, while people can watch the version online?
I think that, I'm very interested in it living on. Nakia just did such an amazing job. And so I'm looking into ways that it can either tour and stream in other places, such as museums, theaters, Black community centers. A lot of times our audience, we don't feel, I myself sometimes don't feel welcome in theaters because they feel like such colonial spaces. It's like, it doesn't have to be at the big fancy theater in town. It could be at the Black community center. It could go to the college, you know what I mean? And I work with an artist named Alicia Harris. She's incredible. And she really showed me the beauty of that is sometimes we feel comfortable in our own spaces. And I'm interested in that as well.
Now, I've seen your list of credits and you've got a handful. And I'm like, okay, she's a young actor, you're doing it all. What goes into saying yes to the projects you take,
It's a really good question because I feel like the pandemic has changed that radically for me. I think now what goes into saying yes is not only what's the story, because what's the story is always number one. What are we talking about here? What stories are we diving into? Who are we speaking to? But I'm thinking a lot about accessibility and who has access to the work. That's why Semblance was so exciting to me. I can send my mother a link. I'm from Chicago. I live in Brooklyn, but my family's in Chicago. They're mostly Black women. I want them to see my work. Accessibility is something I'm thinking about, is not only what's the story, but who has access to the story and what are we going to do to get the story out there? Those are the things I'm thinking about right now.
Mm-hmm. So for audiences who will watch this, where can they see the streaming version?
The streaming version will be available through New York Theater Workshop's website. They've done an incredible job. Just look at that alone. This is a theater that produces live work, and during the quarantine and through the Instigators project, they found all of these ways to bring digital work to audiences. So that's got a lot of ingenuity to it in and of itself. So it'll be available on the website streaming.
Mm-hmm. This project has been done, so it's now going to be shown streaming. What's next for you?
Next are two pieces with Alicia Harris, the incredible and very brilliant. We will be remounting What to Send Up When It Goes Down, a piece that explores basically a piece that looks at how we can celebrate and lift up Black men, women, and children who have been killed and lost their lives to racialized violence. It's part ritual, part play. It's a really fantastic piece of theater. Alicia wrote it. She's also directed herself before, and we started collaborating together with the Movement Theater Company in 2018, I believe. And that will be remounted at Playwrights Horizons. And then after that, Alicia and I will premiere a work of hers at New York Theater Workshop again in February of 2022.
Only in theater can you have titles like that.
Okay, what's up when it goes down? Okay, that's giving you everything you need to know. That show is really special. Come out for that one. It's been such a source of healing for me, and the cast is spectacular. It's a cast of 8 beautiful brothers and sisters just doing everything everything you want to see an actor do.
It's been great talking to you. Obviously, I saw the show, obviously, so it's great to see it in person before I talk to people and so have them tell them go to the link, yada, 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 and just to come out, it's like theater is now coming back, hopefully, this is, we've got, from what I've read, 7 stories by Black playwrights that's going to hit Broadway, so hopefully people can come out to see that and just start the wave again. It's like New York is doing its very best to try to get back to some sort of normalcy. Nothing's going to be the same, but let's get back to a little bit of what it used to be, because it starts off here and then everybody else will follow suit. So it's good talking to you, obviously, hopefully, maybe at some point we'll meet in person.
Yeah.
And then we'll take it from there.
Thank you so much. Take care and come on out, see the show.